Hey, folks, we're back. It's round four, and this is couldn't draw up a more epic matchup, although we did just see one between Austin and Conrad. But these two guys, it's hard to think of two elite players in Scrabble who know each other better than these two, Ben. They're from the same region, and they play in the same club every week and have been for years now.
They live very close to each other. You could walk to one's house from the other. And yeah, any combination of those three players, Conrad, Dave, and Austin, is going to be a great matchup.
Oh, man. And this is another huge swing here. If you can see both players' racks, Conrad with really good bingo tiles and no playable bingo is going to feel compelled to potentially exchange tiles here instead of play. I think it's probably correct for him to do so. But in that event, Dave is going to respond with Quango for a very, very large score to start the game. So yes. I fully support and appreciate if Conrad exchanges LN or something like that here. He might opt to do that. Placing a word on the board will work out better for him here, but that doesn't make it the better choice. So
Dave still is going to play Quango even if he plays something like Lin.
That's true.
But I guess Nil blocks it, but
Nil would take the sting out of it quite a bit.
If you could see Dave's rack, you should play Nil. Hopefully he just plays Quango and NL. You should play Nil.
Yes, which in the previous game, that was as close as we're ever going to get to players actually knowing one another's racks with a high degree of certainty in the early going. Usually in Scrabble, that's a privilege reserved for the end of the game, right? So the players have their score sheets. They have you can see in the lower left part of the board window, you can see it looks like Conrad has his hand on his scoring sheet. You can see some of those letters there on that sheet. Every play that's made, he's ticking those off. And at the end of the game, you know exactly what your opponent has. In the early going, you don't know very much at all about what your opponent has. Rarely will they make a play that gives you a little bit of information about the tiles that were left over on their rack on that play. But it's hard, Ben, to come up with that rationale in the early game.
Yeah, the most understandable, most easy to understand example of that being just playing an S for very few points. You could often assume that your opponent has another S.
For sure. At this level, the S, such a valuable tile. You're not going to see somebody use it unless they have another one. The value of the S does decrease after the first because whether you have one or two S's, you can still pluralize other things on the board, right? So you're not getting any more ability to pluralize with a second S. But Conrad exchanges just an N, and after Dave's Quango, he's going to play Greenlit immediately for 80 points to take the lead. So it works out reasonably well for Conrad, even with the unfortunate big play. But oh my God, look at what Dave has. Dave has Oxheart through the E of Greenlit. Not a bingo, but it might as well be. Scores 68 points. He sees it instantaneously. That's what you're going to see at this level.
That will be on the board shortly.
So Oxheart through the E, 68-point play. This does not use all of Dave's letters, but it nevertheless scores as well as a typical bingo would score, and he plays it in seconds pretty much. So nicely spotted, of course. So over to Conrad, who despite just, scoring 80 points on his first actual word of the game, not his first play of the game, he exchanged, still finds himself down. Yeah, still finds himself down 40, and Dave picking the first of the two blanks. So Dave is off to a pretty fast start, but Conrad can keep pace. It's going to be important that he make a solid play here and draw something decent if he doesn't want Dave to run away with this.
The problem is, what is that play here?
Good point. You gotta be careful here too of opening. I mean, there are a few reasonable places to play. For example, under or potentially above the X of Oxheart, right? If I don't know exactly what fits underneath that O, but in many situations you might want to play something in that spot. But doing so is a little scary because it might open a triple. So one play Conrad could make here would be to play Thanna on top of Oxheart, right? He could play Thana in that spot. He also can play, he doesn't have to use both ends. It just scores a lot more points to use both ends because you get your H on the triple letter score there. So that seems, Thana for 32. This seems good, and he's going to play it. This looks like the right play to me. But Dave is likely to just hammer this. I don't think he has a triple-triple. He's going to spend a few minutes looking because obviously with that blank in hand, you need to be very thorough and make sure you're not missing anything huge through that V. But as Zuoglia points out, he's very likely to play in native for 92 points there. Oh, my 90. God. Does Conrad have embolize? Is that a word?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is.
I'm pretty sure it is, right? So that's a pretty wild pick, which is going to fit. That's going to fit after Dave's play. If Dave plays in native through the T of Thana, Conrad will keep pace with a bingo. I'm pretty sure he's going to see it and play it here.
It doesn't quite hit what you want it to hit, but
Collins only. I didn't even realize that. Embolize Collins only, huh? I probably would have played that in an NWL game, so I don't know. Could be curtains for my ability to switch back and forth here. But, yeah. So Dave's going to spend time thinking, and what do you think? You think he's going to just – how long do you think it'll take him to play in native, Ben?
Probably another 30 seconds to a minute.
That's amazing. And there you see you can see he's getting ready for it here.
Okay, right? I underestimated it.
That's crazy because you could, if you weren't as, with the confidence that Dave has in his word knowledge and word finding abilities, a normal person could spend a long time on that rack, right? There's a triple open. There's a triple open. You want to make sure. But I think the nice thing about it is he knows that there is a bingo with the blank as an E, and I feel like there aren't that many letters that you could make your blank there that would actually yield a word, right? You're probably going to be thinking about the E, the S. I'm a little worried what Conrad is getting ready to play here.
Yeah.
He might not be thinking about embolize at all. It would be a big swing.
Yeah, it's not like the most triple E rack is what you're trying to say.
Yeah, it is. So maybe that will help Dave to have played in native so quickly. But I wonder, oh, man. So Conrad is getting ready to play his Z without playing a bingo here, potentially through the A. But I don't think that word is still in the dictionary. And I also... if he were to do that, it would obviously not be his bingo available. So we'll have to see. Yeah.
That would be a big swing.
So just knowing Conrad's play finding ability and word knowledge skills, I definitely would expect him to at least consider the possibility of embolize here. The only question is, does he have enough confidence to play it against probably the player who knows the dictionary the best in North America, Dave Wiegand?
I guess the shortcut here is you can remember embolies and embolize. If you know that pair, it makes knowing embolize with the Z a little bit easier.
That's a good point. So, so let's just to show what Ben is referring to. You can see that there is an anagram pair. One word is a U.S. English word, one is a UK English word, and pretty much anything, almost any, I think, I don't know, maybe there's some counter examples, but any verb that's spelt ISE with the British spelling pretty much always can be spelled IZE as well. So maybe that works in Conrad's favor to come up with this play. Frankly, as you guys are saying, as Zoglia points out, even just cashing your Z on top of Quango is, if you're not going to play this bingo, that's pretty reasonable, right? Like to play for 42 points, leaving a reasonably balanced leave. It's not the end of the world, but against Dave, you can't really make mistakes much, especially when he just averaged 70 points per turn on his first 3 moves.
Dave looking to play in the keg bird after this tournament.
Yeah. I'm not sure I know the origin. So in Scrabble, we call, it's just the late bird is because it contrasts with the early bird, I assume. Yeah, that's why. So if there's a little small tournament before one of the main events in Scrabble, it's called the early bird, just because if you are an early bird getting into the tournament nice and early, you get to play a little extra Scrabble. But we have the amusingly termed late bird for similar events like that take place after tournaments, which I've always been amused by that. But of course, leave it to me to not realize that it's just a play on early bird. Keg bird. Okay, so he plays off Zay in this spot there for 42, a missed opportunity with Embolize. At least he was able to not play an expurgated word here. That's nice that he was able to avoid that, but
nice for us too.
Nice for us for sure.
We gotta keep doing this.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully we can keep dodging those instances. And look at this. Conrad draws pretty well. Oh, symbol. That is a word. There is a word in the UK English dictionary. Symbol with an E, I'm pretty sure, is a word. And that is going to fit with ZEE here. Or I guess ZEL, in fact. So obsolete word for a symbol. Sorry, Dewey Seedlings. I got there first. The bot is has some kind of cooldown associated with it. So I think Dave will, normally he was probably getting ready to play Biked alongside the I of in native. And now I think he is going to strongly consider playing it with Zek here, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Would that would save him some grief here, wouldn't it?
Sure would.
That would be a huge swing. What would Conrad do after that? He would be out of luck. So if Dave, and that is, I think that spot hooking Zay on the board is overall pound for pound much more dangerous than the I alongside a native, right? Like that's a good scoring spot there. But ZE takes so many hooks, and it's just, so many hooks that, ironically, not an S, but practically everything else, right?
So, interestingly, you could play something like Grike here, hoping to cash in the I spot next turn. It's probably a little bit too cute, just because the spot isn't really that dangerous.
Yeah, interesting. So the idea being...
hold on to the D.
Right. That's true. So the D not only playing in that scoring spot, but also playing next to a native and playing with DZO if you draw a bingo there. So I think this is a good test of is Dave, I think for sure, if the situations were reversed, Conrad would play Biked and Zek immediately, right? That is a play that is very, very Conradly, to block off a huge chunk of the board. It even scores well. It's a good equity play. And by that I mean we have this term in Scrabble of equity. It's just a measure of how many points does your play score and what is the caliber of the letters you leave over. And we have a number that we add together for those two sort of values that we call equity. It has nothing to do with board state, has nothing to do with strategy considerations. And there we go. It's Biked, which we love to see this from Dave. Well, we love it and we're also scared of it because this is like a really nice job by him to block. So yeah, nicely done.
I
Conrad's
think he's always
bingo.
playing there.
What's that? Sorry, Ben.
I think he's always playing there is the thing.
Yeah,
But
yeah. So, I mean, just note that, like, not only did Zek fit there, but Zee, Zed, there's a million things that would have potentially put there. So, yes. Hello, uncommon Nigerian. Yes, in native is a UK English word, a Collins word, as was Conrad's 7-letter word on his rack of symbol. And now Conrad's going to have to dig much deeper to find a play that he likes here, down 100 against Dave Wiegand. Dave hasn't drawn great. Dave does have an S, but the rest of it doesn't look as good.
Conrad's going to be able to score something here. Like, you, the very least, they'll have by making Noy and X.
Oh, good suggestion of in natively. Do you think, is there any I mean, that seems
Not against Dave.
Yeah, against Dave, it's getting, I don't know. I mean, it really against Dave or really anybody, I feel like would challenge. I would definitely challenge it. I don't know. I mean, the only, what's he going to do here? Moby, that seems very solid here. That scores a lot of points, keeps things quite open. Leaves the LS on the rack. It seems very reasonable for Conrad here, cutting the deficit a bit. Dave really just needs to somehow dodge really bad draws from here on out, and he should be okay. But let's see what Conrad gets. He needs another vowel.
It's a vowel.
There's one. Okay. Well, I don't know. What's he got there? Not triplers or anything like that. Prillers.
Prillers, not quite.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that Conrad's drawn very well, but not well enough. He actually hasn't drawn that well with the duplicated R. But it looks like he's close but no cigar to a bingo here.
Yeah. Maybe something like prelim next turn for him.
Yeah, true.
Dave very close to Guru Dumbs.
Oh, yeah, that's a great point. Instead, Dave just plays Mug. This looks very reasonable. You want to block off that M. The M is the worst case scenario. If your opponent has a play that hits 2 triples, that's like the only way Dave can immediately lose control of this game, where he's pretty firmly in command. So he blocks it, uses his 3 arguably worst letters on his rack in the process. I think we like that play, Ben.
I like that play, and I like that draw.
Yes. So, yep, definitely a nice draw for him. So Dave should be able to come up with something here, whether it be just cordites through the eye, right? Like that's, does he have anything else?
I don't think so.
But yeah, I can't imagine Conrad blocking that lower part of the board. Oh, he's going to play triplers. Oh, boy. Okay. This is a reasonable try at this score. Maybe it's actually, I didn't give Dave his points for Mug, but I fully expect that Dave's going to challenge, and he does. Yep, he does. Ironic, this play would have been a tripler itself on the triple word score.
Doubler is a word. Why can't tripler be a word?
I mean, that's a very rationale. That's a very normal rationale, right? Like doubler, one who doubles, I assume. Yeah, that's defined as one who doubles. So why couldn't there be a tripler? We don't know.
I guess that's like being a double of someone else, but...
Yeah, rough. I mean, it's a very, very reasonable thing. And this is, you know, this is the part of Scrabble that can be frustrating. The idiosyncrasies of the dictionary do kind of play a role, right? Like why is that word not valid in the dictionary? It's hard to, when so many bizarre words are valid, it's hard to understand all of those intricacies sometimes, but knowing the dictionary, for better or for worse, knowing the dictionary solid is really important.
It's
to
so
tournament
important.
Scrabble, and Dave is incredibly well versed in that. Like
Even at this
really, really
level,
well
it's just
versed.
so important.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, you could say especially at this level, right? Because all of these players are. But yeah, I mean, at this level,
You
you
think everyone knows
see.
everything.
Yeah, there is this assumption that, at this point we know the dictionary so well that nobody ever makes mistakes, but that's very, and you see Dave with Cordites lined up, that's going to be very bad news for Conrad.
Yeah, there are several plays already this game that I wouldn't have been sure of.
Yeah, several of them on the board there. In native is kind of weird. Thana with the two ends, right? Like there's definitely a few things here that are tricky. So Cordites comes down for Dave. He's going to extend his lead even further. We saw Dave with a blowout win in the first game against Bob Lynn. And Conrad is definitely in some trouble here. Winning chances are, oh boy, and look at that. Dave with another S, and Morelos is going to play up top through that O.
See that O yet? Yep.
So Dave will see that play almost for sure, and that should officially polish this game off when it comes down. And Conrad's sweatshirt hood goes down over the face. Yeah, it's tough,
I can't think of like a more iconic Conrad look than the hoodie.
For sure. And again, these guys, the two of these players, I don't know how many games they've played in tournament play, but they have to have played hundreds and hundreds of games in casual play. So they know each other extremely well. And I got to imagine that overall, the record between these two is probably pretty closely contested, just knowing how good both of them are.
I would guess so as well.
So I don't even know what Conrad's supposed to do here. It's
I think what he's doing right now is
wishing he could resign, right? Yeah.
Just like put your hoodie up.
Yeah, just try not to. I mean, he has to do his best to sort of let go of whatever, I'm sure in his shoes he's annoyed with how this game has gone. Dave has just been all over him with a million bingos and high scoring plays. Actually, just the two bingos, but 50-point Q play, 68-point X play, 40-point K play. Pretty just relentless.
Scoring never stops.
That's true. That is the catchphrase of Austin, who we saw previous game, but certainly could apply to Dave as well. He is pretty relentless.
Back in the chat. I'm here.
Nice. Yeah, that's another. I mean, that's a debate for anybody that's, this might be your first time watching Scrabble. Maybe you're coming from chess or you're familiar with other games where resignations are sort of par for the course. Not typically the case in tournament Scrabble outside of very rare match play format. We don't usually use the match play format for tournaments like this. It's a little bit more like kind of a golf tournament, something like that, where everybody plays the same number of holes in a golf tournament, same number of games in a Scrabble tournament, and resigning is typically not done, but opinions vary quite a bit about whether that should be the case. I typically don't get too riled up about that debate one way or another. Are you a full-fledged member of Resign Gang, Ben?
If there's spread involved, you really can't be. I kind of am though, but I understand why it's discouraged. Just because spread makes some amount of sense as a tiebreaker.
Yeah,
it favors skill. There are problems with it for sure. There just aren't great alternatives. Like opponent match win percentage is a good alternative.
Yeah, that's a good one, but it's not as immediately apparent. The nice thing about the spread as a tiebreaker is, it's just easy to understand, I guess, would be my way of describing it. So yeah, Conrad plays Lisper, but Morelos is coming down super fast. But yeah, sorry, what were you saying, Ben, about the spread?
Yeah, the other nice thing about opponent match win percentage is it discourages it discourages Swiss gambits, so to speak, where you start the tournament off in a bad spot and then you just run through a field of weaker players.
Sure. That is definitely true. I've been the beneficiary of that before, as Conrad manages to get a pretty heavy counter blow to Morelos of reified for 102 points. That's pretty good. Of course, he still has a ways to go, and Dave has drawn another S, so he continues to sort of have a nice balance of them. But the other tiles on Dave's rack are pretty weak.
Not so great.
He has so Dave's highest scoring play on this turn is pretty cool. I think he's going to find it. He's incredibly talented with play finding, but it's going to, if he spots it, which I think he will, it's going to be a very aesthetically pleasing play. Can anybody find Dave's highest scoring play here? So I think Ben, I think you have an uncommon talent for finding plays like this. I think over the board you would find it every time, so I fully expect you will. But nice looking play here for 40 plus points. Actually,
I see something. Is it just like, I don't want to say. I want to give Chad a chance to see it.
Sure. I think I heard you about to say it. There's actually a couple spots that score 40 or more points here. One play scores 45, which is a cool option here. Okay, Bluefelly has spotted a good play. That's a reasonable play. Dave might play that, but there's one. No, it's definitely something everybody should be able to. I wouldn't say everybody. A little bit tricky. It is. It's not in that spot. It doesn't pluralize Oxhearts. So let's see what Dave comes up with. Maybe he'll surprise us. It looks like he's about to play the play that Bluefelly suggested here. So I'll spoil it now. The play that scores the most points is Waddies for 45, making Azo, DE, and Mobies. Pretty nice.
Only the downside about it is what you leave on your rack, but
yeah, true. Hard to avoid leaving something kind of ugly here, though. I guess maybe that gives a slight edge to WAIS. Actually, I feel like I would rather have DUV than UIV. Does that make sense? Geez, I don't know. They're both pretty gross. So not sure, but
about this one. I think he sees all the candidates.
Sorry, I gotta give his Conrad his reified points here. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there is a really easy spot for Dave to play, and that is, this might be better than Waddy's anyway, just because it doesn't give a lane back to Conrad. Waddy gives him a pretty good sevens lane that could end in a vowel, and this might keep a slightly better leave. So I think Dave's probably made the correct play anyway, but
Conrad just wants this game to be done, it seems.
Yeah, he plays pretty quickly. The suggestion of Akaju would have played with Emu at the top of the board there. Jaffa is pretty solid as well.
Yeah, I think Jaffa's got to be the clear play there.
I think it's fine. Yep, for sure. Conrad's drawn the other blank. So the score is still just a little bit out of reach here. Overall, I think Dave is going to continue to score enough. I mean, you can see he's already got 452. There are 4 tiles in the bag here. So Dave basically just has to not empty the bag and score any kind of decent number of points, and he's going to win the game. I think
don't play upvote.
Yeah, true. Yeah. Isn't outwick a word? I don't think that fits anywhere, but I think it is. Let me just see. Define outwick. Yeah, so Conrad might, I mean, that's not going to fit anywhere, but if Dave somehow opens up a possibility that could, I don't know, we're not going to see that word be played, but Conrad does have it. We can cut to the tracking. I think it's updated. So from Dave's perspective, there are 4 in the bag, and the tiles are pretty. Yep, there it is. They're pretty gross. The W and the Y are going to get in the way a lot, but you could have. I mean, there's definitely chances with that blank there. So from Dave's perspective, Conrad could have the second blank, and he's got to at least be a little careful here. If I were Dave, I think I would just want to score anything at all that doesn't empty the bag, and I would be fine, right? Like something like UPO at the bottom of the board with Lisper seems just fine to me.
Yeah, I agree. There are probably plays that empty the bag that are 100% to win, but you don't need to overcomplicate this.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it would be a fun intellectual exercise to figure out what could Dave play that would actually lose him the game here. So I'm sure there's some way of engineering a way to do it, right? Not sure what that would be.
One nice thing about Upo is that it leaves the T for waste next turn.
Oh, very nice. Good
so
point.
You can score something.
So Ben pointing out that the WAIS that you see connecting with biked and ox hearts, you could put a T at the end of that for the regular word waste, which that could definitely become useful in the end game to score a nice amount of points. So, instead he is just going to play Tup, which I guess he feels like even a play that pluralizes this with the second blank is not going to be fatal to him.
Yep. Now I'll get the job done.
Yeah, good enough. So he does use that T-hook immediately, and I don't think Conrad's got very much to do here. In fact, with 1 in the bag, he can't even use any of the good scoring spots for his W that exist, right? Like if he wanted to play OW underneath Reified or something like that. Yeah. Good question by Ballington. I think Dewey Seedlings gave a really good answer to that. You just want to, as he or she suggested, that you want to give a little bit of mystery for your opponent, right? Leaving a tile in the bag makes it impossible for your opponent to know exactly what you have. And that uncertainty can play in your favor. It also means that you're likelier to have that initiative in the end game. After a lot of plays, if you leave 1 or 2 tiles in the bag, after your opponent's next play, you will get 2 plays in the end game to your opponent's 1 a lot of the time if you time the end game appropriately. So has a lot to do with leaving a little bit for your opponent to think about, and also creating better end game timing to secure yourself 1 more move than your opponent gets.
Yeah, in this case, the scary part about emptying the bag is that if your opponent plays out with a bingo, you don't get another turn, and you can lose the game that way.
Yes, that is often the most salient concern for sure.
And oftentimes, if you're going to empty the bag, you want to do it in such a way that you're going to be very likely to be able to play out on your next turn, so you're able to get those 2 turns to your opponent's 1.
Yeah, or at the very least, right, or at the very least, if you're in that scenario where there's 1 in the bag and your opponent is sitting on a full rack, you definitely want to consider plays that use up as many of the letters on your rack as you can, so that you and your opponent only get 1 more move to finish off the game, right? So Conrad instead uses off the 1 letter, going for a bingo here. So seems reasonable. I'm not sure if he's actually drawn anything that fits for him somewhere.
Sorry, I lost focus and I thought he drew the blank, but...
Oh, no, yeah, he had it. So I think he drew an E, which is about as good as it gets here, but it doesn't actually look like he has anything playable here. So maybe he was going for something else. Not sure what, but it's a tricky, I guess he would have maybe considered trying to draw something playing down from the G. I don't even know. But just a brutal. Obviously, there's no real like hope for Conrad here. Just playing off one letter and hoping you draw into something seems like something I would do. At least you force Dave. You force Dave to look for a while, right? To try to figure that out. Out ices, that would be as reasonable a play as any. Of course, it doesn't happen to be in the Scrabble dictionary. There are a lot of words starting with out that are valid, but unfortunately, that is not one of them, as normal as it sounds compared to out cavil and some of the other things like that. So,
I think there is Kuthi on this rack, so you have to be careful if you're Dave not to give that up to Conrad.
So yeah, Dave's just gonna look. He's up by 100. I think even just a high scoring play, if Dave were to somehow miss a bingo, he's still going to win after a play. Yeah, he's going to be fine. He'll just play something, I don't know, anything that gets off two of like, that scores decently with his V, Y, something like that should be just fine. So yeah, and it would be nice, of course, if Dave were able to come up with a 2-turn sequence. Dave is really good at end games, so I fully expect, it feels like it's very natural for him in the end game when there's no tiles in the bag and when he knows exactly what his opponent holds. He's really, really precise in my experience. Would you agree with that, Ben?
Yeah, and I think what he wants to do here is something like Yod and then Avo.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so Ben pointing out YODE, I assume with axe.
Yeah, there are several spots for it, but that is your highest one.
Oh, you could play it under Morelos as well.
You might even want to play Avo first.
So he plays Fovea. That seems fine. It sets up, it doesn't set anything up, but it allows him to play DOY, which is a valid word somewhere or other. He's got a couple spots for it. So.
Oh, did he just play EMI?
EMI, yeah. I think he might have been suggesting that with.
I think he wants a cat cam.
Oh yeah, my cat Emmy. That would be. I mean, of course, he deserves it after this. The last couple games, pretty brutal for Conrad. So, yeah, what can you do? I think he's played well for the most part. Really, I guess the big issue in this game was triplers, of course, but even at that point, he was in some trouble. So, yeah. So, yeah, I think he might have been saying that he was fishing for Kuthi, but he forgot that, EMI would have blocked it or something like that. That might have been my read on that, but either way.
Yeah, that would make sense. I just thought he wanted your cat, though.
could be. So what to do for him here?
Out voice plays with Emmy.
Oh, wow. Nice. Yeah. Oh, embolize. Right. Thanks, Blue Felly, for that reminder. Yeah, that is a surprising one. It feels perfectly good. But that is one of those rare Collins-only words that feels like it just feels so word-like. But hard to play it if you're not absolutely sure and you have a 40-point Z play, which Conrad did have. So, good question from Dynamite, Ben. Do you see it there? Do you want to take that one?
My take on it is you just it's tough, but you have to find a way to keep your head in the game. Or if that's going to end your tournament, you just have to accept you can't win every tournament. That's just not going to be your tournament this time.
Yeah. It's also, I feel like it's important to realize that it's a little early to be making those types of pronouncements for your entire tournament, right?
Sure.
Conrad's going to be 2-2. Whoever wins this tournament in this division, a division like this, unless somebody like Dave goes on an absolute tear. Like Dave, it looks like Dave's going to be 4-0. And, if you're Conrad, you're going to need somebody to step up and beat Dave, which is not something you want to pin your hopes on. But Dave is an amazing Scrabble player, but even the best Scrabble players are going to lose some games. So if you're able to sort of lock in and win as many as you can the rest of the way, 2 losses, the person that wins this tournament is probably going to have 5 losses, right? Like 15-10, 15-5, I should say.
Yeah,
is
even
probably enough.
14-6 is often enough. To go away from that question for a little bit, can you see Dave's highest scoring outplay?
With YOD. All right, let me look and not ruin this for myself.
I don't know if it's the highest scoring, but it's certainly the coolest.
Okay, now you've got me. You've got me intrigued. Looking. Coolest outplay. I'll keep looking here. Not yet. I'm not seeing anything particularly better than usual. All right, so Conrad, well, let me not get too lost here that Conrad plays cuties, burning his blank, using his blank as an S, which I don't know. I mean, is there... I assume there's nothing that wrong with just DOY parallel to in native, but that can't be what you're wanting, which is
I guess that's what scores more than Yod.
YODH. Okay, in that same spot. Yeah. Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah,
so Ben, yeah, so Ben is pointing out that this play to the H of Tana would have been a very stylish play, but actually doi, which I know that's kind of, I don't think this means like no doi or anything like that. Yeah, it's an archaic Scottish word here. So 25 points for Dave. Let me get the score. Sorry, a couple turns behind as this game wraps up with Dave winning again, 527 to Conrad's 403. So, this one was going to be a tough one for Conrad right up the bat just because Dave was scoring, bingoing pretty relentlessly all game. And that's pretty normal for him, but it's not that abnormal for Conrad either. I fully expect Conrad to bounce back from here. So let's see. I'm just going to take a quick peek at the standings here and
I'm
see.
actually going to take this opportunity to dip out.
All right.
It was great to be back. I hope to be doing a little bit more of this year. And thank you for having me and get to be part of this.
My pleasure. Thank you for joining me for these 4 games in the morning. Hopefully, let's get some, thank you Benjis going in the chat, or thank you Bens as you would wish. But thanks for joining me. Always a pleasure. We'll do more of this in the future for sure. It's going to be a lunch break. And games restarting at 3 p.m. local time. We got a thank you, Ben. I love you from Parks.
Oh, secret admirer in the chat. I don't know who that is. But...
Very nice. We all do in our special way. So I think lunch break will be about an hour and a half. It's going to start up in like an hour and 25 minutes. We will be back with coverage of the NWL division. So for those that have been patiently waiting to see the other sort of major division, we will be doing that. I'll be joined by Morris Greenberg, another former champion of the Crescent City Cup and commentator on the Scrabble Players Championship this year. So thanks once again, Ben. Appreciate it. And let's take our lunch break. I'll see you guys back in about an hour and 20 minutes for 4 more games at the Crescent City Cup 2023.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.